Monty, you have been so instrumental in kind of pointing me in the right direction.
It was about looking at your character defects in spirituality.
It's the integration of clinical practices with the 12 steps.
It's an absolute pleasure. He certainly knows a lot of people. He's got a lot of energy, and sometimes when you don't have so much energy, he picks you up and carries you.
Having the Monty Man there certainly helps.
This is one of the places that is about the business of the solution.
The views expressed on this special broadcast of the Take 12 radio show do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting or its affiliates. KHLT is not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
Now here's that guy who's getting less popular minute by minute, your host, the Monty Man.
Well, greetings, recovery family, all of those of you in recovery, those of you who are advocates of, and perhaps some of you who should be, welcome to another fine episode of Take12Radio.com on your internet dial, broadcasting to you from the studios of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting on the outskirts of beautiful downtown Albany, Oregon, broadcasting internationally. Welcome aboard to the good ship Recovery. As we embark on yet another journey of just some phenomenal, just a phenomenal individual, a phenomenal book. Today, I am honored to have as my guest an author. The book is called Daddy's Disease, Helping Children Understand Alcoholism. And I have to tell you, as I told my guest earlier off the air, I've read it 3 times, and each time I teared up. This is an amazing tool, and it's more than that. I believe it is spiritually sound. I believe that it is something that God has had his hand in, and you've got to get a copy of this thing. You really do. And we're going to be talking about how you can do all that. But my guest today it has really captured the heart of a child, and the ability to sit down and show us parents a real legitimate way to sit down with our kids if we are the spouse or loved one of an alcoholic. This is just amazing. Carolyn Hannon Bell is my guest this week, and let me tell you, I'm floored by this. Carolyn Bell has given a gift to thousands of children and their parents with her book, Daddy's Disease. This is a wonderful book for children who have a parent who has alcoholism. With gentle insight and pungent stories, she introduces us to 7-year-old Tommy, whose father is an active alcoholic. Like most children of alcoholics, he is confused, he's angry, and he feels like it's his fault. Some of you can identify with this. This is where Carolyn takes over the voice of Tommy's mother and holds his hand and heart while she guides them through these difficult waters. This is a children's book that everyone living with alcohol should read. And I've got to tell you, I'm going to say that again. This is a children's book that everyone, adult and child alike, needs to get your hands on and read. Let me tell you something, folks. Even if you are not directly afflicted or affected by alcoholism, you need to get this book, because this is the number one. Addiction is the number one health crisis in our world today. Number one. And if you haven't already, you are going to run into somebody who's going to need this book. Carolyn Hannon Bell is my guest. Welcome, Carolyn, to Take 12 Radio.
Oh, thank you so much for that amazing welcome. My heart feels very good. Thank you.
Absolutely. I just, it's amazing. And I have to say, the illustrations are just as amazing. Great job. And I want you at some point to tell us who did that. But before we get into the book, Carolyn, what is your profession?
I'm a psychotherapist in South Jersey, New Jersey.
And how long had you been in this profession before you wrote this book?
I got my master's degree in 1998, and that's when I started in a private practice with my mother, who is a psychologist.
Uh-huh.
And so it's been since then, and I would tell you how many years that was if I was better at math, but I'm not.
Okay, let me ask you, have you been afflicted or affected with alcoholism?
Myself, I am not an alcoholic, but my family has certainly been touched, yes.
Okay. And we could really almost say everybody's hand could go up if they're really honest. We at least know somebody that we care about that's either afflicted or affected. Do you have children?
I do. I have 2 grown sons, 26 and 23.
Have they read this book?
They did read the book, and they were both helpful in creating it and giving me advice and tips on how a child might understand or better process some of this information.
Okay, so what is it that edged you towards being an author and putting this book together? Was there a specific event that happened, or was it just through your practice? What happened?
I had been counseling a man who was in recovery for a few years, and he had a young daughter. He was afraid what his daughter was going to hear about him while he was in active addiction. And he looked online and he looked in bookstores for different children's books to try and explain to his daughter what alcoholism was. And he just couldn't come up with something that he really liked. And we had been talking about it in therapy a lot. And he said, could you write this book? And it was a challenge, and I wanted to do it, and it's a subject matter that is so important, and like I said, it has touched my life, and I thought this could really do some good. As I was reading this the second time through, I was thinking how amazing that somebody that isn't directly, you're not an alcoholic, how you could express this so well. I mean, this obviously didn't just come from your education. You've really got a gift here, and I'm floored. I'm still floored. I'm looking at the cover, and I was showing the viewers on our YouTube page the cover of this marvelous book, and I've got to tell you, helping children understand alcoholism has got to be one of the hardest challenges a parent could have. True? Oh, absolutely. And I think rather than try and explain it, I think a lot of people just try and pretend it's not there, kind of make excuses for the alcoholic or overcompensate and kind of distract or deflect, point the child in a different direction, because it's really hard to explain. And I think that a lot of people don't really understand it as a disease. And, a spouse of an alcoholic is all wrapped up in their own anger and resentment and frustration and everything that goes along with it.
Well, I'm going to read a piece of this. There's a couple places I want to touch on, and one of them I'll get to here in a bit. I love the way that Tommy's mother explains to him or gives the example of the disease of alcoholism and chickenpox. And let me just read this, listeners. Something weird happened at school last week. Tommy's best friend Ronnie was homesick all week with chickenpox. His teacher explained to the class that chickenpox is a disease that causes itchy bumps and is really easy to catch. Tommy missed Ronnie a lot. That was his buddy that was out sick, and wished he would come back to school and play with him. Instead, he played with his other good buddies, Alex and Will. Together they made a get well card to help Ronnie feel better. As Tommy was walking home from school, he started to think about what his mom had said about his father's disease, and he wondered if it was like Ronnie's disease. As soon as he got home, he told his mom about Ronnie's chickenpox. Ronnie has chickenpox, and he had to stay home so that the other kids wouldn't catch it. Is Daddy's disease like chickenpox? Asked Tommy. Well, answered Mommy, there are some things that chickenpox and alcoholism have in common. The first thing is that it's nobody's fault when someone gets either disease. Tommy nodded his head and said, "Yeah, you can't help it if you get sick." "Right," answered Mom. "And when you have chickenpox, your skin feels real itchy, and it's very hard not to scratch. But if you scratch, you could get some pretty icky scars. So you have to try really hard not to scratch." "Does Daddy itch?" interrupted Tommy. That is that really launches Tommy forth on a series of questions where his mother goes on to explain a whole lot about alcoholism in a very simple, childlike manner. When you were doing this, when you were putting this together, how did you put yourself in the character of Mommy and Tommy? How did you do that?
I guess from having been a child myself and having been a parent myself, I just kind of tried to stay in their shoes.
Right.
But I have to say it was really my son Alex, my younger son, one of the first drafts of the book he read. He's the one who suggested that I put some of the things that the children that Tommy was experiencing in his life, to use them to help him to understand what was going on with his father.
Right.
And I think that was just so helpful, because before I was trying to explain it all without any kind of analogy or anything that Tommy could really grasp.
One of the things... Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things that I really love about this is how you bring Murphy, the dog, into the picture. That is so cool. I mean, did you realize when you were doing that what a jewel and what a gem that was, bringing Murphy in?
Absolutely. Well, Murphy was a real dog, and he actually looks like the dog in the book. And I have always had dogs. My kids have obviously always had dogs, and I use my dogs in my practice to sit in with people because I think dogs are such great therapy.
Right.
And for Tommy to have Murphy by his side as he's going through all of this, to kind of cuddle and be goofy with him, it's just such a great tool for Tommy.
Carolyn, have you spoken with any of your clients or anybody that has read this book and used this book and gotten any feedback from them?
I have. I guess some of the surprising comments I've gotten, one was from a young man who is an alcoholic, and he's drinking, and he actually bought several copies of the book to give to family members and friends so that they could understand what was going on with him and his drinking. And so I really didn't realize that the book would be able to explain the disease to adults as well as to children. And there were also people who read the book because they had been children of alcoholics, but now they are adults now, but they read it kind of, and in retrospect, started to make some changes in their thinking about their memories.
Wow, you said something that's really important there, and it's already come to the surface that it's been proven that adults can understand alcoholism better by reading this book. Sometimes we need to become childlike for us to get it. True?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I think the more that we know that we don't know things, the more we're going to learn. And that's, one of the beauties of children is they have no problem saying why. We need to say why more often and not kind of, I think we pretend we know things we don't know sometimes.
You bet. Well, the book is Daddy's Disease, Helping Children Understand Alcoholism. Carolyn Hannon Bell is the author. We're going to take our first break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a bit more. I'm going to read another portion out of this book about this wonderful piece of literature that everybody needs to get a hold of, and we're going to talk about how you can get that. So, folks, don't go away. More with my guest, Carolyn Hannon Bell, the book Daddy's Disease, when we return.
We understand that having a loved one caught in the grips of an addiction is a powerless position to be in, and we understand this on a very personal level. We have been there ourselves. Our own families have experienced exactly what you are feeling now. The good news is we are here to direct you in finding a way out. We are Freedom Interventions, providing the direction necessary to get the help for your addicted loved one. Your family has specific needs. We can determine the best approach for your specific circumstances. If an intervention is needed, we will provide the direction required to safely and effectively accomplish the goal of recovery for all. To begin the recovery process for your loved one, call toll-free at 888-762-7557. That's 888-762-7557. And visit our website at freedominterventions.com. Freedom Interventions, providing drug and alcohol interventions and a continuum of care services to clients and their families.
As men and women who have recovered from utterly hopeless states of addiction ourselves, we know all too well what it's like to battle addiction daily. We are Origins Recovery Centers. Here at Origins, we have taken that which we have learned along the way, excised anything unhelpful and unnecessary, infused it with the latest medical research and innovative therapeutic methods, and created what we know to be the absolute gold standard in substance abuse treatment. And Origins provides the most preeminent aftercare and relapse prevention program available in the United States. For a free confidential clinical assessment, call toll-free 888-843-8935. That's 888-843-8935. Origins, delivering real solutions for real families.
You and I know all too well how talented folks in recovery are. KHLT Broadcasting, the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show, and the Recovery Broadcasting Network are handing you the opportunity to share some of that talent. If you've ever written your own songs and have always wanted to share them publicly, here's the chance to share your talent with thousands of people all over the world through Internet radio. For the next several months, the Monty Man will be reviewing songs written and performed by people in recovery. Whether you're an accomplished musician or a novice, he wants to hear from you. All forms of music will be considered. Adhering to federal copyright laws and possible contractual agreements, some restrictions may apply.
This is Chris Schroeder. You are listening to Take12Radio.com. Recovery talk and positive music.
All right, and if you would like to send a CD or CDs into us, you can go to our contact link, or just look on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube right now, and there should be up on the screen, it should be the mailing address to send those. Please no cassette tapes, and remember, we cannot send CDs back to you once you've sent them to us. And if you go on to our website at Take12Radio.com, if you have music you'd like to submit, click on Submit Your Music link, the green link there about center of the page or so. Okay, my guest, Carolyn Hannon Bell, the author of Daddy's Disease, Helping Children Understand Alcoholism. The website, by the way, is alcoholismhurtskids.com. Is that where they can get a copy of this book, Carolyn?
Yeah, there is a link there to Amazon. The book is available in Kindle format and in paperback on Amazon.
Oh, good news. Kindle format, too. That's great.
Yes.
That's awesome. And there is something about the innocence of children that breaks our heart when we see a child living in a situation where alcoholism or addiction is active. And you have touched the heart of a child through this book. I read a lot of books. I get an awful lot of mail. And I got to tell you, I don't say this all that often. This is a book, listeners, you absolutely must get your hands on this thing. Because there is going to be somebody in your life that is going to need this, if not yourself. Okay, there's a piece in the book that really is so superb, and it cracked me up. It really did, because I saw a little bit of maybe some codependency in there, and just different elements of recovery, the reaction of the child and the mom and everything, all kind of mixed in there. It's multi-leveled, and it's in a simplistic form. And what I'm talking about, folks, is a part here where Tommy, it's kind of exhausting talking about this whole thing and how he feels about his dad, and he's blaming himself, and he gets tired of it, and he just pretty much says, I'm paraphrasing now, but enough's enough. And Halloween is they're right on the heels of Halloween, and Tommy goes out and he does the trick or treat thing, and he gets tons of candy. And when he comes home, it's late. And I love how you put it, that it was late at night. It was about 8 o'clock. For a child Tommy's age, that's late. And I love how you did that. It brought us right into Tommy's world. Tommy comes home with this bag of candy. And what he does, listeners, is what most kids do after coming back from trick-or-treating. He wants to eat a lot of it. And he begs his mom for more than just 1, 2, or 3 pieces. He wants maybe 4. Please, Mommy, please, he says. And Mommy is pretty adamant, isn't she, Carolyn, that, no, you're not going to do that. It's late. You need to go to bed. You got school tomorrow. And she doesn't permit him to eat more than a couple of pieces. Well, Carolyn, tell us what happens next.
Well, Tommy tries his best to listen to his mom and go to bed, but he's up there just thinking about the candy, and the candy is calling his name.
Yeah.
So after he thinks Mommy's in bed, despite his best judgment, he and Murphy the dog go downstairs and dump the pillowcase of candy onto the floor and dig in, as they just can't help themselves.
And I love it. And Murphy goes with him, his dog.
Yes. And he's covered in chocolate goo as well.
Right. And, I can just picture it. Something really wonderful happens here. Tommy wakes up the next morning, and he's not feeling too good. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't want to miss school. He's at that age where school is still exciting. and he's got some people he wants to see. There's going to be a police officer doing a presentation there. He's been looking forward to it. And, it's almost like his mom saying, well, you know what? You kind of messed up, but you got to go to school anyway. But then there's a point where she gives in and lets him stay home because he really isn't feeling very good. And there's consequences. The consequence in Tommy's case is that he misses his friends. He doesn't get to see the presentation by the police officer. What a bummer. And I love that. And as I'm reading that, because I'm a recovered alcoholic, I am right there with Tommy, but as his dad. And something happens is Mom uses this circumstance to explain something to Tommy about how this isn't about Tommy, his dad's disease, how it isn't Tommy's fault, and that his dad loves him more than anything in the world. And she sets an example. Can you explain what she says to Tommy for the listeners?
Well, she uses Tommy's going against her orders to him that he go to bed and not eat any more candy. She says to him, did you go sneak downstairs and eat all that candy because you don't love me, or you wanted to hurt me, or, something along that order?
Right.
And Tommy says, no, that had nothing to do with it. And he starts to understand that the kind of out-of-control behavior that he had with the candy is a lot like his father's out-of-control behavior with alcoholism, and that when his dad drinks, it's not because he doesn't love him. It has nothing to do with it.
Yeah. And just like a kid, when we're that age, well, even adults somewhat, we listen and we hear pieces, but we're still determined and stubborn. And so Tommy later, listeners, what he does in the book is he kind of lashes out a little bit. He gets a little angry, doesn't he, Carolyn?
Yeah. Which part do you mean?
Well, the part where he's talking about, if Daddy knows that this is wrong, if Daddy knows the consequences, and he knows, and if he loved me, he would just not drink anymore.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
He gets really frustrated. He doesn't understand that, he's thinking life could be so much better. Why does he have to do this? This doesn't make any sense. He kind of understands for little brief moments, and then he goes back into, yeah, but I just don't want it to be this way.
Yeah, that's right.
And while he's on his path of understanding.
And his mom basically says, slow down here, buckaroo. She goes, whoa, Mommy interrupted. Daddy's drinking doesn't have a thing to do with you or me or anyone or anything. He drinks because he chooses to drink, because of that voice inside his mind, and because he hasn't learned how not to drink. Boy, that's key right there, isn't it?
Yes.
And then it goes on, it says, Tommy's eyes filled with tears as he said, if Daddy loved me, then he just wouldn't have any drinks at all. So he's still not hearing it. He's getting pieces of it. He's still got that in his mind. And what really I loved about this, Carolyn, was you really captured how a child thinks. The yeah buts and the yeah buts. And what is beautiful here is Mommy doesn't give up. Mommy keeps explaining to him, keeps repeating to him over and over again, it's not about Daddy not loving you. It's not about you doing something right or doing something wrong. It's about the disease. And she doesn't give up. And I just want to say to parents, if you're in this situation and you feel frustrated because your child isn't getting it, don't give up. Don't stop. And then there's a great picture in here of Tommy and his dad and Murphy in a boat fishing. And Tommy is reflecting on the good things that have taken place in his life with his dad. So have you sat back after this was all put together and published this and read this thing by yourself alone, just you and the book?
Yes.
What was going through your mind?
I guess hope.
Yeah.
Really hoping that this will help some kids grow up to be stronger, more self-assured, with more self-confidence, and not believing that other people's bad behavior is their fault. Because understanding this from a child's age, going into adulthood, every relationship that you're in is going to be better if you understand that you don't cause other people's behavior.
Right. And I think Tommy gets it. At least that's kind of how I kind of wrap the thing up. Tommy gets it. You kind of create your own ending here. I do. And Tommy gets it, and Murphy gets it. The thing that's really
they do.
I know. The thing that's really cool about Murphy is, man, he is Tommy's dog, and I mean, he is there to comfort Tommy. He has unconditional love. He's even Tommy's partner in crime there for a minute.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Oh man. So okay. Let's put the book aside just for a second. Let's talk about alcoholismhurtskids.com. Share with the listeners what that's all about.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch what you said. It's just a little hard to hear.
That's okay. The website, alcoholismhurts.com. What is that all about?
Okay. Alcoholismhurtskids.com is just a site where you can get an idea of what the book is like. It tells you a little bit about me and where I come from. There's a picture of me with my son's dog, who is the dog we have who most looks like Murphy.
Yeah.
And there's links on there to Amazon, so you can purchase the book. And there are also some quotes from people who have read the book and what they think.
Here's a picture on YouTube right here of Murphy and Tommy. Tommy decides when they go trick or treating, he's going to go as Murphy, which is pretty cool. And that bag of candy, Carolyn, is huge.
Yes, the person who did the illustrations is a woman named Pepe, who I found on the internet. I have never met her, but she's a wonderful illustrator, and she's actually in the process of doing, I have a second book I'm working on now, which is Mommy's Disease, because I wanted to have something that people could relate to if they had a mother or a wife who was in addiction and alcoholism, rather than a father, just to make it more relatable.
Right, right. In your experience, are men more open about addiction and alcoholism than women, or is it pretty equal, or in today's here in 2014?
It does kind of seem like men are a little bit more open about saying, yeah, probably an alcoholic, but it doesn't. I've met many who say that, but it doesn't really do anything to their drinking.
Right.
And it seems more often women will, if I'm talking about how much are you drinking, they'll kind of, in that moment, start to think, wow, maybe I have a problem. So it's a different sort of men seem to take it more as like, oh, yeah, that's what we all do kind of a thing.
Yeah, kind of take it on the cuff. And it was that way, over 70 years ago when this whole thing with Alcoholics Anonymous happened. Women weren't even allowed in the original meetings, and it was like if you were the town drunk, you were a guy, but you were a guy who was a drunk. If you were the town drunk and you were a woman, the stigma behind that was intense. And that's sad. And I know we've come a long ways, but I think we got a lot longer way to go with that, don't you?
Absolutely. I think the understanding of alcoholism as a disease rather than as some sort of a character flaw or willpower issue, understanding it as a disease takes a stigma away and allows people to get more of the help that they need. I think AA, I think, is just an incredible, marvelous program. I've been to more than a few meetings myself just to see what goes on there.
Mm-hmm.
I've been an Al-Anon member, and it has helped me so much and really did educate me a lot in what goes on. And a lot talking to people who are in recovery, seeing what they go through, and it's just an amazing, inspiring process. As a matter of fact, the AA meetings in Philadelphia, right across the bridge from where I live, on Thanksgiving, they do a whole Thanksgiving spread and a big, huge meeting where people just stand up and tell these such inspirational stories. And I think if everybody could go to one of those meetings, whether they drink or not, it just gives you such gratitude and just inspiration to live better.
It would do them well to check it out. It really would.
Yeah.
One of our sponsors is the 12-Step Gazette out of Philly. And so when anybody talks about Philly, my ears always perk up. There's a lot of good recovery there, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take our... Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that combined with South Jersey. South Jersey is a lot like a suburb of Philadelphia. So between the two, there's just an enormous amount of resource for people who want it.
Right. All right, we're going to stop for a second and take our last break. And when we come back, more with my guest, Carolyn Hannon Bell, author of Daddy's Disease. The website is alcoholismhurtskids.com. You can follow the link here at take12radio.com. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Men, women, and their families experience tremendous pain and suffering due to the struggles they face from substance abuse and its co-occurring mental health challenges. They need to find a safe place for peace and healing. Therapia Addiction Healing Center was born out of a deep desire to provide that safe and powerful healing environment. Therapia exists to help people recover from addictions by developing and maintaining healthy, meaningful relationships with God, self, and others. To speak with an addiction specialist, call 1-855-652-4325. That's 1-855-652-4325. Or visit our website at www.therapia.net. Therapia Addiction Healing Center, restoring lives one step at a time.
Serenity Springs Recovery Center, located on the beautiful east coast of Florida. A unique facility that is committed to providing exceptional individual care in small group settings while utilizing their experienced and dedicated clinical and support staff of licensed therapists and doctors. Visit their website, SerenitySpringsRecovery.com, or call 386-423-4540. Serenity Springs, making a life-changing investment into your recovery. All right, welcome back. And on the phone with me right now is Carolyn Hannon Bell, the author of this wonderful book, Daddy's Disease, Helping Children Understand Alcoholism. I want to read this piece right here where Mommy has discussed with Tommy about Alcoholics Anonymous. And Tommy says, can we take him there? Maybe tomorrow, asked Tommy. Obviously, he's very eager for his dad to get well. Murphy's tail thumped loudly on the bed. No, honey, that's something Daddy has to do on his own. We didn't cause his drinking problem, and we can't fix it. You can support him and cheer him on if he decides to get better, but until then, you have to protect your feelings. Protect my feelings from what? Well, said Mommy, it's not good for you to believe that you can make Daddy drink or not drink. When you think that Daddy drinks because he doesn't love you enough to stop drinking, or that something you did caused him to drink, that's the same as thinking that everything he feels and does is because of you. That's simply not true. He loves you, and he always will, no matter what. You just have to remember that Daddy is in charge of himself. You can only be in charge of you. But if I never did anything bad, wouldn't that make it easier for Dad to not drink? Asked Tommy. One has nothing to do with the other. Even if everything were the best it could possibly be, Daddy would still drink. It isn't about what's going on around him. He drinks because of what's going on inside of him. Wow, Carolyn. When I read that part, in fact, right now, I'm getting chills. What as adults, that we should understand that it's not what's going on around us, it's what's going on inside of us. Can you expound on that some more as a psychotherapist?
Well, drinking often starts because, or continues because we don't want to feel what we're feeling, or we feel some sort of discomfort, or we feel some anxiety, or something we don't want to feel, so we drink because that numbs it. And the more we drink, the more we numb, the more we don't know how to deal with awkward or uncomfortable feelings. And so it just becomes this really terrible cycle of I cannot feel bad feelings, so I have to, the drinking just becomes the only way to be able to tolerate anything.
Right.
But it's not because, you're not, a lot of it is not because you had a bad day at work or because there was a lot of traffic or anything like that. It's because of, lifelong issues or things, from, who knows, childhood or undealt with old issues.
Yeah. It's definitely an inside job. You talked about writing another book. Can you expound on that a little?
This book is called Mommy's Disease, and it's about a little girl, Mila, who has a mother who is an alcoholic. And this time it's her father who is helping her to understand what is going on with her mother. It's very much the same sort of a story. But I like I said before, I wanted to have a situation that kids who have a mother with this problem could relate to and not have to kind of flip-flop mommy, daddy when they're
Sure.
reading the book.
Do you have a estimated date when that's going to come out?
It should be in maybe about a month. It should be finished.
Okay. Excellent. Will you send us a copy of that when you get it?
Oh, I'd be happy to.
Oh,
Absolutely.
That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. Well, Carolyn, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show and share this wonderful book, Daddy's Disease, Helping Children Understand Alcoholism. I appreciate it so much.
Oh, Monty, thank you very, very much. You make me sound really, really good. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You are. And let me tell you, folks, if you go, well, I just don't like to read, I just can't get into heavy reading. All right, if you're on YouTube right now, look at the size of this. It's thin. It's got big letters in it. See, I'm showing you right now. This doesn't take but a few moments to read, but I'm going to tell you something. A few moments of this on your lips as a loving parent can bring healing, understanding, and a powerful, I believe, a spiritual sense to what's really going on in a child's life. You can really help a child to understand the alcoholism of their dad or their mom. And adults, listen, if you don't get it, or you think you do get it, maybe you should read this book and get it again, because it really is something that is it's vital that you understand this thing. Daddy's Disease is the name of the book, Helping Children Understand Alcoholism. Carolyn, anything that you'd like to share before we close?
Just want to wish everybody well out there and hope that people's struggles are coming to an end best they can.
Yeah. All right. Amen to that. Carolyn Hannon Bell, the author of Daddy's Disease, Helping Children Understand Alcoholism, here at Take12Radio.com on your internet dial. Remember to check out all of our shows. We have a unique show every single day of the week. We have a new show, the Sober Portland Radio Show, that you can check out. That's a once-a-month update. We have brand new recovery and positive music being broadcast 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Don't forget our cartoon caption contest and just all sorts of stuff that we're getting involved in here. Mark L., recovery comedian Mark L., and I are working on a brand new comedy show geared towards the Narcotics Anonymous community. You want to be looking for that, watching for that. He is on my advisory board here at Take 12 Radio, and he's going to be gifting us and blessing us with the show that he's going to be doing here at Take 12 Radio. All right. Follow all the links here on YouTube. Follow all the links on the webpage. Get a copy of Daddy's Disease right away. You're going to need this thing, and I guarantee you, I will promise you that if you get this, you are going to use it. I'd like to hear from anybody that gets a copy of this and doesn't use it, because I just don't think that's going to happen. It's going to be something important in your life. All right, my friends, until our next broadcast, this is the Monty Man, along with Carolyn Hannon Bell, author of Daddy's Disease, and we're wishing God's perfect serenity for you. Bye-bye now.
This has been a broadcast of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Chitty, 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 chitty.